The shovel bites the hard ground. Dirt jumps. A small lamp shakes on a nail, casting nervous light. The girl digs. She is small, fierce, and steady. The stable smells of hay and iron and old rain. Crickets thrum beyond the fence. He watches from the doorway and tells himself to wait one more breath. He fails. He steps into the light, and the girl flinches, then keeps digging like she did not see him. "Put that down," he says. She does not stop. "No. You will cut your foot." "My feet know the dirt." He moves closer and sees the hole. It is narrow, deep enough to swallow the truth. "What are you doing out here?" "Work." "What kind of work?" "The last kind." He sees a bundle at her knees, cloth tied with twine. The knot looks angry. "Whose bundle is that?" "Mine." "What is in it?" "Things." He feels heat rise in his throat. He thinks of thieves. He thinks of children who lie for food. "You cannot be here." "I asked." "Asked who?" "The dark." He reaches for the shovel. She yanks it away, sharp and clear. The lamp swings. Shadows jump across the stall doors like hands trying to climb. "I will not hurt you," he says. "Tell me your name." "Later." "You got people." "I did." He swallows. The word lands like a stone at the bottom of a well. "Where are they?" She looks at the hole. "Down." His chest tightens. "You mean here, on this land?" "Behind the stable is still earth," she says. "Earth is enough." He hears the wind push at the eaves. The horse in the last stall stamps once like a warning. "Listen," he says, softer now. "Who gave you leave to bury anything here?" "I gave myself leave." "You cannot do that." "I did." He kneels to see her face. It is pale under the smear of dirt, eyes bright and dull at once like a fever that learned how to hide. "I need the truth." "I told you." "Tell it again." She stops digging. She plants the shovel. She lifts her chin. "I have buried my mama." "Can I sleep inside?" The words shake the night. His mouth opens and closes, empty as a jar. He looks at the bundle, the hole, the lamp's thin ring. "Where is your mama?" "In the ground." "Whose ground?" "Ground is not a person." He stands. He feels the pull of duty, the pull of mercy, the pull of something older than both. "Show me." She does not move. "Show me where." "Here." His skin crawls. She had not dug enough for a body. He thinks of the orchard beyond the fence, of the dry creek bed, of shallow pits marked by stones. How long ago? Long enough to make it quiet. How did she die? She was done. Done with what? Breath. He wants to shout. He wants to run. He steadies himself and keeps his voice flat. "What is your name?" "Call me Ruth," she says. "It will do." "Ruth," he says, trying it. "I am Eli. I work here. This is not a place for strangers at night." "I am not a stranger tonight." He glances at the house beyond the barn. The mistress will wake if the dog barks. He thinks of her rules. He thinks of her temper. He thinks of all the ways this can go wrong before morning. "You cannot stay in the barn," he says. "I asked to sleep inside." "Inside where? Where people breathe slowly? The house? The place with a table and a bed that remembers the shape of a person." He breathes out. "The mistress will not like it. She will like the truth less." "What truth is that?" "The truth is that men in coats came to our door and knocked like they were God. The truth that Mama would not open. The truth that the knocking did not stop until the world changed shape." His stomach drops. "Men in coats?" "With papers," she says, with a smile that did not reach the eyes. What did they want? What they always want, to keep power and call it mercy. He feels the night tighten. He lowers his voice. Did they harm her? They made time run fast. They stood there and watched it do the work. He hears the horse breathe. He hears his own blood. "Ruth, we need the sheriff." "No," she says. "He will ask questions. He will answer them wrong. He is the law." "He is a man with a badge and a past," she says. "Badges can be heavy or hollow. I have seen both." He shuts his eyes for a second. He knows the sheriff. He knows his weight. He knows his hollows. "If I let you sleep, will you stay till morning?" "I will stay till morning if morning comes." "It will come." "Sometimes it does not," she says. "Sometimes it just pretends and leaves you in the same dark with brighter skin." He bites back a prayer. He studies the bundle. "What is in there, Ruth?" "Proof," she says. "Of what?" "Of who Mama was." You said she is on the ground. She is, Ruth says, but some of her stayed light enough to carry. He feels a cold patience press his shoulders. He nods toward the hole. You cannot leave that open. Animals will come. I am not done. Then stop for now. Why? Because you are shaking. She looks at her hands and seems to notice the tremble for the first time. It is only the lamp. It is you, he says. Give me the shovel. I will finish the hole in the morning if it must be finished at all. It must. Then we will both see it done right. She glances toward the dark yard. If the sheriff comes, he will take me away from the hole. Maybe, he says. Maybe not. Do you lie, Eli? Sometimes to save a calf, sometimes to save a soul. Which am I? You are a girl with a hard night on her back. She studies him. You do not scare easily. I am scared now, he says. I just know how to hold it. She lifts the bundle and hugs it. I will sleep by the door, she says. I will not touch the table. I will not drink the milk. I will not speak unless asked. You will speak, he says. You will answer, but first you will rest. I do not know how. You will learn. She looks at the hole one more time. Mama will not be mad. Not if she is where you say, he says. Not if she is at peace. Ruth nods. She knew peace once, before the coats. He takes the shovel from her and sets it against the wall. He lifts the lamp. The flame smears gold across the wood. Come on. She hesitates. If I sleep inside, do I pay? You pay by telling the truth tomorrow. She breathes in and nods. Then I will pay. They walk through the stable. The horses turn their heads to follow. Leather creaks. The knight leans in with one last question. He opens the door to the yard, and the cold steps through like a person who does not wait to be invited. Ruth looks up at the dark window of the house. Will she hate me? She whispers. She will hate what happened to you more, he says. What if she hates both? Then I will stand in the space between. Why? Because someone should. They cross the yard. The dog lifts its head and does not bark. The back steps complain under their feet. He feels his heart count every board. He pushes the door with his shoulder, and they slip inside. The kitchen is quiet, the clock a small heart in the dark. Ruth stops at the threshold like a river-meeting stone. Thank you, she says. Do not thank me yet. Then I will keep it for later. He points to a narrow bench near the stove. Sleep there. Keep the bundle close. It is already close. He nods, sets the lamp down, and listens to the house breathe. He tells himself he will sit in the chair till day. He tells himself he will not sleep. Ruth curls on the bench with the bundle under her arms and her eyes open, fixed on the door. He sits. He watches the shovel mark on her palms fade to shadow. He watches the clock hand jerk forward. He tells the dark that morning will come. He is not sure he believes it, but he tells it anyway. The barn door slammed behind them. The girl clutched her bundle, small hands gripping it like a shield. Eli set the lamp on a beam, light spreading across the hay bales, the stalls, the dust in the air. The place smelled of animals and iron, damp earth clinging to the boards. He told her to sit. She did not. The mistress's steps came fast across the yard. Her voice cut sharp through the dark. Eli, what have you done? She was out back, he said. With a shovel? Yes. In my dirt? Yes. The door banged open. The mistress stood there, shawl clutched around her shoulders, face pale in the lamplight. She looked at the girl as if she had risen from the ground itself. Out, she said. Eli held steady. She is cold. She needs a place till morning. We are not a church. She says she buried her mama. The mistress's breath caught. Her eyes hardened. What did you say? The girl's voice was soft, flat. I buried her. Where? Behind. You lie. The girl blinked. I do not. The mistress stepped closer, her eyes narrowing. How old are you? Old enough to dig. Who are you? Ruth. That is not a full name. It is enough. The mistress turned on Eli. You bring this into my barn. You know the talk will start? She is a child, he said. She is trouble, the mistress snapped. Look at her eyes. No tears, no shame. Ruth's voice cut through. Tears are for people who get to keep what they lost. The mistress froze. The barn went still. Only the horse in the corner shifted, chain clinking against wood. "You see," she said to Eli, "she speaks like a curse. She speaks like she is tired," he said. The mistress pointed to the door. "She goes tonight." Ruth's hands clutched the bundle tighter. "I can stay quiet." "No one stays quiet in this town," the mistress said. "Every whisper grows teeth." Eli stepped between them. "Let her stay till morning. Just the bench. Not in my house." "Then here, in the barn." The mistress's jaw worked. She looked at Ruth again. The girl met her gaze without flinching. The silence stretched until it hurt. "What is in that bundle?" the mistress asked. "Her," Ruth said. "Her who?" "Mama." The mistress's face was drained of color. "You mean bones?" "Pieces," Ruth answered. Eli's stomach turned. He searched Ruth's face for a lie, but found none. The mistress whispered, "Lord help us." "Maybe he won't," Ruth said. The mistress's hand trembled. "Eli, get it from her." "No," Ruth said, voice rising for the first time. "It stays with me." Eli lifted his hands. "Leave it. Leave her be." "You cannot let this stand," the mistress said. "I can until morning." "And then what?" "Then we see." The mistress's eyes were sharp. "You think you are saving her. You are just tying us to whatever sin she drags." Ruth spoke again, slow and calm. "Sin was already here." The words hit like a nail driven deep. The mistress stiffened. She drew her shawl tighter and turned away, but her voice shook. "I buried my own once. I know what grief looks like. This is not it." "What is it then?" Eli asked. "It is dangerous." Ruth looked at her, steady as stone. "It is true." The mistress's eyes flicked to Eli. "Do you hear her? Children do not talk that way unless something is broken, and broken things break others." Eli rubbed his jaw. "Maybe she has a reason." "Reason does not matter. Fear matters. Rumor matters." "She needs rest," he said. "She needs the sheriff." Ruth's voice cut in sharp. "No sheriff." The mistress turned on her. "Why not?" "He will not listen." "He will listen to me," the mistress said. "No," Ruth said. "He will listen to the ones in coats. He always does." The mistress froze. Something flickered in her face. Memory, anger, old hurt. She turned away, clutching the door frame as though it held her up. Eli watched her, then spoke low. "We will keep her here tonight. I will stand watch." The mistress's voice was brittle. "And when the sun comes, we will decide then." She looked at Ruth one more time. "You bring shadow into this house, girl," Ruth answered, quiet but steady. "Shadow was already here." The mistress shuddered. She pulled the door shut behind her and left them in the barn. Eli set the lamp lower, the light gentler now. He nodded to the hay bales stacked in the corner. "You can rest there." Ruth shook her head. "The bench is fine. Suit yourself." She sat, bundle tight against her chest. Eli leaned against the stall door, watching. For a long time neither spoke. The barn creaked. The horse stamped. The air felt heavy with something old. Finally he said, "She is hard, but not cruel." "She is afraid," Ruth said. "Afraid of what?" "Of seeing herself." Eli frowned. "What do you mean?" Ruth laid her cheek against the bundle. Her voice was barely more than breath. "She lost a child. She buried it in the orchard. She thinks no one knows." Eli stiffened. His mouth went dry. "How do you know that?" Ruth closed her eyes. "I hear it when she speaks." Eli stared at her. "You should not say things you cannot prove." "I do not need proof. I need rest." She curled on the bench, eyes still half open. The bundle did not leave her arms. Eli watched her breathing slow, her shoulders loosen. She seemed smaller now, but no less strange. He sat on the other side of the barn, listening to the silence stretch. The mistress's words rang in his head. Trouble, curse, danger. He looked at the girl and thought of graves, of coats, of lawmen who bent for the powerful. Ruth stirred once, whispering as if to herself, "Mama said the earth remembers, even when people forget." Eli felt the weight of it. He leaned his head back against the beam and kept his eyes on her. Somewhere in the dark, the dog barked once and went quiet. The barn held its breath. The night did not move. The sun rose pale and tired. Eli had not slept. He sat in the chair near the stove, boots heavy on the floor, eyes fixed on the girl curled on the bench. She had not moved, not even to close her eyes all the way. When the rooster cried, she just stared at the door, bundle pressed tight. The back door opened. The mistress entered with her shawl still wrapped, her face hard with no rest. She glanced at Eli, then the girl. You kept her, she said. I told you. I would. You should not have. She had nowhere. She still doesn't. Before Eli could answer, the crunch of hooves came from the yard. The mistress's mouth drew tight. I sent word. He is here. The sheriff. A heavy knock rattled the door. The mistress opened it and let him in. He filled the kitchen with his bulk, hat low, badge glinting. His eyes took in the girl at once. He nodded to Eli, then to the mistress. Morning. Morning, Sheriff, Eli said. The mistress gestured to the table. Sit, eat, then speak with her. He set his hat down, sat, and laid his hands flat. What's her name? Ruth, Eli said. Ruth what? She didn't say. The sheriff's eyes went to the girl. Well? Ruth spoke softly, clipped. Just Ruth. That's not enough. It is for me. The sheriff studied her. How old are you? Old enough. Old enough for what? To bury. The room went still. Eli felt the air tighten around the words. Bury who? The sheriff asked. My mama. The mistress let out a sharp breath. She said it last night. Now you hear it yourself. The sheriff's face did not change. Where? Behind. Behind what? The stable. Show me after. Ruth shook her head. It's done. He leaned closer across the table. Listen here. A body must be marked. A body must be seen. That's the law. My mama doesn't need a preacher, Ruth said. Don't need no stone. She just needed earth. I gave her that. The mistress's voice cracked. Sheriff, you hear her. She makes no sense. The sheriff kept his eyes on Ruth. How did she die? She was finished. That's not an answer. It's the only one. He drummed his fingers once on the table. What do you got in that bundle? Her. Her bones? Her things. What kind of things? The kind that stays when breath goes. The mistress slammed her hand on the table. Enough riddles. Speak plain. Ruth's eyes flicked to her. The plain doesn't change the truth. The sheriff's tone deepened. Girl, you best start speaking so I can make sense of this. Otherwise, I will take you with me now. Ruth's face did not move. Then take me. But the whole stays. The sheriff turned to Eli. She talks like this all night. Eli nodded, never once bent. The mistress poured coffee, her hands shaking. She's lying. No child can bury a mother alone. I did, Ruth said. You didn't, the mistress snapped. Then why are my hands torn? Ruth held them out, blisters raw, dirt caked deep. Eli saw the mistress flinch. The sheriff looked long at the hands, then at the girl's face. Who else was there? He asked. No one. No father? No kin? No one. You expect me to believe that? I don't expect anything. The mistress leaned forward, her voice brittle. Sheriff, she has brought trouble under my roof. Take her away. Let the law find what's true. Ruth spoke again, voice like a stone rolling slowly. Law already knew. Law let it happen. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. What's that mean? Ruth met his stare. Men in coats came, papers in hand, smiles that lied. Mama would not open. They waited till the night got heavy. Then they watched her end. The mistress went pale. Eli shifted in his chair. The sheriff's jaw tightened. You saying my men? He asked. I said coats. Ruth answered. What coats? The kind that carry papers. The kind that walk past graves without looking. The mistress whispered, God help us. The sheriff snapped. Quiet. He faced Ruth again. If men come, you tell me their names. I don't need names. I do. You had them once, she said. You forgot them. The sheriff stood, chair scraping. His voice boomed. Girl, you test me. Ruth's tone never rose. I test nothing. I'll tell you what it was. Eli pushed up from his chair. Sheriff, she's half starved, half frozen. She doesn't mean to fight you. The sheriff glared at him. She's lying through her teeth. Or telling more than we want, Eli said. The mistress grabbed Eli's arm. Don't defend her. Eli pulled free. I don't defend. I listen. The sheriff sat again, heavy. He rubbed his face. Ruth, you say your mama's gone. You say you put her in the ground. You got no proof. No preacher saw. No kin to tell. That makes your word thin. My word is all I got, Ruth said. The mistress whispered, and it weighs nothing. It weighs more than silence, Ruth said. Eli looked at her, unsettled by the steel in her small voice. The sheriff leaned back, studying her like a puzzle he could not force open. "Girl," he said finally, "if what you claim is true, there'll be a reckoning. If it's false, you'll pay a heavy price." "I already paid," Ruth said. The mistress turned to the sheriff. "So what now?" He took his hat, set it back on his head. "I'll walk the land. Look at that hole. If I see nothing, she comes with me." "She cannot stay," the mistress said. "She won't," the sheriff answered. Eli's voice was low. "And if you do find it?" The sheriff paused at the door. His eyes stayed on Ruth. "Then the whole town will hear before nightfall." Ruth did not blink. "Let them hear." The sheriff stepped out, boots grinding on the porch. His shadow passed across the window, then was gone. The mistress sank into a chair, face drawn. "We are cursed now." Ruth whispered, "You already were." The mistress turned on her. "You wicked child." Ruth hugged the bundle tight. "I only carried what you buried long ago." Eli felt the words cut the air raw. He had no answer. He just watched the girl's eyes, calm and heavy as stone, and knew the day had only begun to split open. The sheriff rode out before noon, the sun sharp and pitiless. His horse kicked dust along the narrow track, sage and dry grass whispering at the edges. He followed the direction Ruth had given, past the creek bed, through a thicket of pines, up a slope that had not seen a wagon in years. He muttered to himself, "Fool's errand, girls are liars, has to be." But he didn't turn back. The trail ended at a clearing. In the center sat the shell of a cabin. The roof sagged inward, half the walls caved, charred beams jutted like black teeth. The place stank faintly of ash, though rain had fallen weeks ago. He dismounted, tied the reins to a low branch, and walked the perimeter slowly. His boots sank into soft earth where weeds had overtaken the porch. He called out once, low, "Anyone here?" Only the wind answered, rattling loose boards. He stepped inside. The floor groaned under his weight. A pot lay rusted near the hearth. Glass shards glittered in the dirt. No bed, no chairs, nothing alive, just the bones of a house. He crouched and pressed his fingers against the wood near the hearth. The black char rubbed off on his skin. He whispered, "Burned. Long ago." He went back outside, scanning the yard. No grave mounds, no fresh dirt. Just stones, weeds, and silence. He muttered again. She lied clean through, but he didn't believe it, not fully. Something itched at him. He walked further, down a slope where the grass grew thin. His boot hit something hollow. He knelt, brushed away dirt. A plank. Old. Covering a hole. He pried it up and found the mouth of a cellar. Stale air breathed out. He lowered himself in. The dark swallowed him quickly. He struck a match. The flame showed walls blackened with smoke, shelves half collapsed, jars broken, mice nesting in the corners, and on the far wall, scratches, long, uneven. He moved closer, match trembling, words etched by desperate hands. He read them under his breath. They watch. They wait. Don't open it. The match burned his fingers. He dropped it, cursed, and struck another. The light flickered across more marks, too many to count. Some were crosses, some only lines, frantic and heavy. He stepped back, chest tight. Lord Almighty! The match went out. He climbed fast, boots slipping on the dirt. When he reached the open air, he sucked breath like a drowning man. He looked at the ruin again. Smoke scars, silence, that cellar full of clawed words. The girl had spoken of men in coats. He had thought it a tale. Now he wasn't so sure. He turned toward the slope and shouted into the trees, voice rough. What happened here? No answer but the wind. He spat, tried to steady himself. Could anyone make those marks? Could be years back. Doesn't mean her story's true. But even as he said it, he remembered another place, another fire, another girl standing in the road, saying her family had been taken. He had doubted her too. And when he finally believed, it was too late. His horse shifted restlessly, ears flicking. The sheriff rubbed its neck, muttering low, "She's lying. She has to be." But his hand trembled as he gathered the reins. Before leaving, he circled once more, scanning for any sign of a grave. He found only a patch of earth that looked sunken near the cabin wall. He knelt, pressed his hand into the dirt. It crumbled dry, untouched, not fresh. He whispered, "No one is buried here." He stood, brushing dust from his knees. His eyes lingered on the cabin. For a moment, it seemed to lean closer as though listening. He felt heat crawl up his neck. He mounted his horse fast. As he rode back down the trail, he spoke aloud, like he needed to hear the sound of his own certainty. Girls are liars. She planted a story and I fell for it. No grave, no body, nothing but ash. But the cellar words gnawed at him. They followed him down the slope, through the pines, across the creek. He tried not to hear them, but they stayed. They watched. They wait. Don't open. By the time he reached the ranch, dust caked his throat. Sweat darkened his shirt. The mistress was waiting on the porch. Eli stood near the barn, arms crossed, eyes sharp. The girl sat on the steps, bundled in her lap, calm as stone. The sheriff dismounted slowly. The mistress called out, "Well?" He pulled off his hat, wiped his brow. "Nothing." The mistress's relief showed quickly. "I knew it. Lies." Eli's voice cut in. "You sure?" "I'm sure," the sheriff said. Ruth looked up at him then. "You saw." His jaw tightened. "I saw nothing worth telling." "You saw," she repeated, voice quiet but firm. The mistress snapped, "Child, hold your tongue." Ruth didn't. Her eyes stayed on the sheriff. "You read the walls." Eli frowned. "What walls?" The sheriff barked. "Enough." But Eli stepped closer. "Sheriff, what did you find?" "Nothing," he said again. Ruth's lips curved in the shadow of a smile. "You remember?" The sheriff shoved his hat back on, mounted his horse without another word. He muttered as he turned down the road. "Damn girls cursed." Same look, same voice, always the same. The mistress called after him. "So she goes with you?" He didn't answer. He just rode on, dust rising behind him. Eli looked at Ruth. "What did you mean?" He remembers. Ruth lowered her eyes to the bundle. He's seen it before. Eli felt the chill run deep, though the sun beat hot on his back. The house was quiet by late afternoon. Eli had gone to the pasture, leaving only the mistress and the girl inside. The air smelled faintly of coffee gone cold, of wood smoke clinging to the rafters. The mistress moved through the kitchen slowly, her eyes always cutting back toward the child sitting at the table. Ruth's bundle rested on her lap, arms wrapped tight around it. The mistress broke the silence first. "You've said enough to stir this whole valley. I want the rest." Ruth's eyes didn't lift. "The rest is the same." "No, girl, there's more. There always is." "You don't want it." "I wouldn't ask if I didn't." Ruth looked up then, her stare sharper than her small frame should allow. "You want answers to quiet your own ghosts, not mine." The mistress stiffened. "Don't speak of what you don't know." "I know more than you think." The mistress stepped closer, hands braced on the table edge. "Then tell me. Tell me how you know. You wear grief like a second skin. I can hear it before you speak." The mistress's mouth tightened. "You're clever, but guessing won't save you." "Not guessing." Ruth's voice stayed calm. "Your husband is gone, buried on the ridge. Everyone says fever, but it wasn't." The mistress froze. Her throat worked, no words coming. Ruth didn't stop. "And the child, the one that didn't live long enough to breathe, buried shallow on the hill. You planted a tree there to hide it, but the roots still know." The mistress's face went pale, then hard. "How dare you?" "You asked." The mistress gripped the table so tight her knuckles showed white. "Who told you?" "No one." "Then how?" "I listen." "To who?" "To the earth, to the cracks in your voice, to the way you look at the hill and don't look long." The mistress's chest rose and fell sharp. She wanted to strike, to silence, but her hands stayed fixed to the table. "Those are my sorrows, not yours. They belong to the ground now. The ground doesn't choose sides." The mistress turned away, pressing a hand over her mouth. For a long moment she stood with her back to the girl. When she spoke, her voice was lower. "I never told anyone about the child, not even Eli." "You didn't need to. The earth told me." The mistress spun back. "Enough of your earth talk, enough of your riddles. You sit here with your bundle and your silence, but you know too much. What are you?" Ruth's face stayed still. "A daughter who buried her mama." "Number you're something else." "Something you fear." The mistress's eyes flashed. "I don't fear children." "You fear yourself," Ruth said. "Because you know I'm right." The mistress's breath caught. For a moment, the only sound was the ticking clock in the corner. Finally, she sat across from the girl, her voice thin. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing." "You must want something. Food." shelter, protection. Those are yours to give, not mine to take. The mistress studied her. You think you can turn every question back on me, but I'll get the truth from you yet. You already have it, Ruth said. Number, not all. Tell me about the coats. Tell me. Why, your mama died. Ruth's grip on the bundle tightened. They came with papers. Said she owed. Said the land wasn't hers. She said the land remembers who works it, not who writes on paper. They waited outside till her breath was gone. The mistress shook her head. Men can't wait for a woman to die. They can if the woman already carries too much weight. Sometimes all it takes is watching. The mistress leaned closer. And you? Where were you? Beside her. Did you try to stop it? I held her hand. The mistress's voice cracked. That's not enough. It was all I had. The mistress shut her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet. You talk like an old woman, not a child. I had to. The mistress whispered, I buried a child once. You buried a mother. Maybe that's why you sound the way you do. Ruth tilted her head. And maybe that's why you hate me. The mistress flinched. I don't hate you. Yes, you do. You hate what I remind you of. The mistress's hand shook as she reached for the coffee pot, then set it down untouched. You shouldn't know these things. It isn't natural. Neither is burying before you're grown. The mistress stared at her, lips pressed tight. Then she spoke, bitter. You could ruin me. You could ruin this whole house with what you say. I didn't come to ruin, Ruth said. I came to bury and sleep inside. Yes. The mistress leaned back, eyes still locked on the girl. You'll stay, for now. But understand, if your words spread, if one soul in town repeats them, I'll see you gone. Ruth nodded. I don't spread. I only answer. That's worse. Truth always is. The mistress sat in silence, staring at the bundle. Her lips moved, almost to herself. Stillborn, fever, graves with no stones. Maybe the ground does remember. Ruth rested her cheek against the bundle. It does. The mistress rose suddenly, chair scraping loudly. She walked to the window, staring out at the hill. The tree there swayed faint in the wind. Without turning, she said, Don't speak of that child again. I won't, Ruth said. Swear it. I don't swear. I only keep. The mistress turned, eyes sharp. Keep it then. Lock it down, or you'll find I have harder ways of silencing. Ruth's gaze didn't waver. I know. The mistress pressed a hand to her chest as if steadying herself. She whispered, You carry too much for your size. So do you, Ruth said. The mistress swallowed hard. She pulled her shawl tighter and left the kitchen without another word. Ruth sat alone at the table, a bundle clutched close. The clock ticked steady. The house seemed to listen. The saloon breathed smoke and sweat. Men leaned on the bar, boots scraping, cards slapped on scarred wood. The sheriff sat alone at a corner table, nursing a glass he hadn't touched much. He kept his hat low, eyes half closed, but his ears worked fine. The whispers were already moving. A ranch hand spat into the spittoon. A girl came in from the hills. Says she buried her mama herself. A man at the table laughed sharply. Children say all kinds of things. Not like this. Another cut in. She had dirt on her hands. Eli swears it. Mistress, too. Eli's soft. My mistress is bitter. Doesn't mean the tale's true. Someone at the bar leaned in. Does the name sound familiar to you? Ruth. Plenty of Ruths. Not with that mama. Don't you remember? The woman who cried foul against the governor's brother, said he forced what wasn't his. The whole town knew. The whole town hushed. The cards stopped for a beat. One man muttered, Best not bring that up. It was 20 years ago, another said. Doesn't matter. Some things don't lose their teeth. The dealer slapped the deck harder. Her mama nearly burned the courthouse down with her tongue. Stood right in the square, shouting his name. Said he was a devil in a suit. The sheriff back then tried to quiet her, but she didn't bend. Next week, she vanished. She didn't vanish, the first man said. She lived out by the ridge. Folks saw smoke from her chimney. Smoke doesn't prove a soul inside. A woman carrying a tray of glasses paused to listen. I remember her, thin, sharp-eyed. She worked harder than any man in the field, said truth louder than all of us. That's why they buried her alive in silence. The sheriff's hand tightened around his glass. At the far table, an older rancher leaned back. If this girl's hers, we'll have trouble. Blood, don't forget. Blood doesn't count either, someone snapped. The town already chose sides long ago. You think the governor's brother will let some girls stir it all again? He's older now. Got land, got money, got friends in every room. Exactly. He'll bury it quickly. The woman with the tray set the glasses down and spoke low. He can't bury what's already risen. The men glanced at her, uneasy. Don't start, one muttered. I'm not starting. I'm reminded. The dealer shuffled again, hands fast. Best everyone keep their mouths shut. Talk like this brings only ruin. Too late, another man said. Talk's already walking through the street. The sheriff finally lifted his glass, took a slow swallow. His silence pulled one man's eye. You hear all this, Sheriff? I hear. What do you make of it? Same as always. Talk. But you saw the place. Rode out, didn't you? The sheriff's jaw worked. I saw nothing worth saying. The table quieted, but not for long. Nothing, huh? Someone pressed. Or nothing you want to name. The sheriff leaned back, voice flat. Careful. The man held up his hands. Just asking. From the corner, another voice rose, low, bitter. I knew her mama. She was right. He took what wasn't his. Everyone knew, but no one wanted a fight with the governor's kin. The room turned toward him. The man's eyes were bloodshot, his breath sour with whiskey. You're drunk, someone said. I'm drunk because the truth rots when you swallow it too long. The man snapped, and now it's walking back into town with that girl. The sheriff's hand twitched toward his badge, but he didn't stand. A younger man sneered. You think one girl can undo 20 years of silence? Silence breaks easy when it's cracked already. The woman with the tray nodded. He's right. Folks have been waiting for a crack. She might be it. The dealer slammed the deck down. Enough. This ain't church. This ain't court. It's a saloon. Keep your voices soft or keep out. But the whispers didn't soften. They only broke into smaller circles, carrying the name from lip to lip. Ruth, the girl with dirt on her hands. The girl whose mama spoke too loud. The sheriff finished his glass and set it down hard. He stood, drawing all eyes. Listen close, he said. The girl stays where she is for now. No one stirs her. No one feeds this fire. If anyone does, I'll come knocking. Someone muttered, You can't stop the rumor. I can stop my mouth. The room went quiet. He took his hat, put it back on, and walked to the door. As he pushed it open, the woman's voice followed him. She'll bring it whether you want or not. He stopped, hand on the frame. Bring what? Old debt, she said. And debt always comes due. The sheriff stepped outside, boots crunching on the dirt street. He looked down the row of buildings, the sun falling slowly behind them. His face was grim, set hard. He muttered under his breath, words only the dust could hear. She's dangerous, not for what she's done, for what she makes others remember. He climbed onto his horse, turned toward the road back to the ranch. He rode slowly, the weight of whispers following him like a second shadow. The storm broke just after dusk. Wind pushed hard against the walls, rain slashed sideways, lightning cracked open the sky. The mistress hurried across the yard with her shawl pulled tight. She meant to check the barn doors before they tore loose, but when the lightning split again, she saw Ruth. The girl was kneeling by the old stone well. The mistress stopped cold, heart hammering. Ruth's bundle sat beside her, soaked through. Her small hands pressed against the well's rim as though listening. Another flash lit her face, eyes closed, lips moving. The mistress shouted through the wind. What are you doing? Ruth didn't move. The mistress ran, grabbed her shoulder, yanked her back. Answer me! Ruth opened her eyes slowly. The ground speaks louder. Then the sheriff. The mistress's grip tightened. Don't you dare say that again. It does, Ruth said. The rain stung their faces. The mistress shook her hard. You'll catch your death out here. I already caught it, Ruth whispered. The mistress pulled her up by the arm, dragging her toward the barn. Enough of this nonsense. Ruth stumbled, bundle clutched tight. You can't make it quiet. I can make you quiet, the mistress snapped. They pushed through the barn doors, wind slamming them shut behind. The storm roared on the roof. The horses stamped, restless. The lamp swung in its hook, light shaking across the walls. The mistress shoved Ruth against the hay bales. Tell me what you were doing that well. Listening. To what? Voices that don't lie. The mistress's breath came ragged. That well's been dry for 20 years. Not dry, Ruth said. just full of silence. The mistress slapped the hay beside her. "Stop with these riddles." Ruth's voice sharpened. "You're scared of what you buried." The mistress's face hardened. "I buried nothing there." "You buried plenty." The mistress's hand rose as if to strike, then froze midair. She dropped it, trembling. "Why do you keep throwing my past at me?" "Because it's still here," Ruth said. The mistress sank onto a bale, shawl soaked through. She pressed her hands together like a prayer she couldn't finish. "You know too much." "You ask too much," Ruth replied. The mistress glared. "And you answer like a knife." "You cut first," Ruth said. Their eyes locked, the storm pounding above like a second heartbeat. Finally, the mistress leaned close, voice sharp. "Fine. You want the truth? I'll give it a go. My husband died in that bed, choking on his own breath, and I was glad when he did. Glad. Because he left me nothing but debt and silence." Ruth's face didn't change. "I know. And the child," the mistress spat. "Born blue. I buried it myself on that hill. No preacher, no stone. I cursed the earth for taking it, and still I walk past that tree every day like it doesn't scream at me." Ruth's voice was low, steady. "That's why you hate me." The mistress slammed her fist against the wood. "Yes, I hate you because you remind me. You make me see what I spend my life trying not to." Lightning flashed through the cracks in the walls, burning their faces white for a breath. Ruth whispered, "Hating me won't put it back." The mistress's shoulders shook. "Neither will your riddles." The barn filled with silence except for the rain hammering the roof. The mistress's voice dropped to a whisper. "Why did you come here, girl?" Ruth's grip tightened on the bundle. "To bury." "Bury what?" "My mama. And the things she carried." The mistress's eyes narrowed. "What's in that bundle?" "Her proof." "Proof of what?" "That men in coats don't need guns to kill." The mistress drew back, heart pounding. "And you expect me to keep you here, with that bundle, with that mouth?" "No," Ruth said. "I expect nothing." The mistress's voice cracked. "Then why won't you leave?" "Because you won't let me." The words cut deep. The mistress staggered to her feet, pacing the narrow aisle between the stalls. Her voice rose against the storm. "I should have turned you over to the sheriff the first night. Let him drag you off, let him bury this whole thing again." "You still can," Ruth said. The mistress stopped, staring at her. "And you'd go quiet. Number I'd speak. From wherever they put me." The mistress sank back down, face in her hands. "God help me." Ruth's voice softened. "He won't. He never did." The mistress looked up, eyes shining wet. "You talk like you're older than me." "I am," Ruth said. "You're a child. I buried more than you did." The mistress clenched her fists. "You don't know what I buried." "I do," Ruth said, eyes fixed on hers. The storm shook the roof so hard dust rained down. The horses snorted, restless. The mistress rose again, grabbed Ruth by the arms, shook her. "Tell me how you know." Ruth didn't flinch. "Because the ground told me." The mistress let go like she'd touched fire. She stumbled back, breath ragged. "You're cursed." Ruth hugged the bundle. "So are you." The mistress backed toward the door, but the storm screamed louder, keeping her inside. She leaned against the wall, voice breaking. "What do you want from me?" "Nothing," Ruth whispered. "Then why stay?" "Because you can't let me go." The mistress closed her eyes. "You're wrong." Ruth's voice was steady. "Then open the door." The mistress's hand reached for the latch, then froze. Her shoulders shook. She turned away. Ruth rested her head against the hay, bundle tight in her arms. "See?" The mistress slid down the wall, shawl wet, hair clinging to her face. She whispered, "You'll ruin me." "No," Ruth said. "I'll show you." "Show me what?" "That the ground remembers." The mistress buried her face in her hands. "Stop." But Ruth's voice carried through the storm, quiet and sure. "It remembers everything you tried to lose." The storm roared, drowning them both. Here the sheriff and his men uncover unsettling things near the orchard. By morning, the sheriff came back with 2 deputies and a spade each. Dust rose behind their horses, cutting lines across the yard. Eli stood by the barn door, arms crossed. The mistress waited on the porch, a shawl tight around her shoulders. Ruth sat on the step below, bundled in her lap, face still. The sheriff swung down, voice flat. "She says behind the stable, we'll see for ourselves." The mistress pointed toward the orchard. The ground's softer there, easier digging. The sheriff nodded to his men. Check it. The deputies moved slowly, eyes darting. They set to work under the trees, shovels biting. The orchard smelled of damp earth, and last season's fruit had gone sour. Eli muttered, "This is wrong." The sheriff shot him a look. "Truth doesn't care what feels right." One deputy grunted, "Got something here." They scraped deeper. Bones surfaced, pale against the dirt. The men froze. The mistress's hand flew to her mouth. "Lord above!" The sheriff knelt, brushed soil away. Long jaws, sharp teeth. He straightened, face hard. "Animal." The deputy shifted uneasily. "Bigger than a dog. Maybe a calf." The sheriff barked, "Doesn't matter." "Not human." Another deputy called out. Found more. They unearthed another shallow pit. Bones again. Ribs. Scattered. Old. The sheriff stood. Voice clipped. "Stock. Not souls. You hear me? Nothing more." The mistress let out a breath. Half relief, half doubt. Then why bury so many? The sheriff turned on her. "Folks bury dead stock all the time. Keep disease out. Nothing strange." The deputy closest to the bones crossed himself. "Feels wrong, like digging in cursed ground." The sheriff snapped. "No curses, just dirt." Ruth's voice floated from the steps. "Mouths lie, dirt doesn't." The men turned. She sat calm, eyes steady, bundle tight. The sheriff's jaw clenched. "Quiet, girl." Ruth didn't blink. "You asked about the dirt." It answered. "You don't like what it said." One deputy muttered, "She talks like a witch." Eli barked back, "She talks like someone who's seen more than you." The mistress's voice cut sharp. "Don't defend her." "She's a child," Eli said. "She's poison," the mistress hissed. The sheriff raised a hand. "Enough." He looked at Ruth. "If your mama's here, we'll find her. These pits prove nothing." Ruth tilted her head. "They prove someone hides things in this ground." The sheriff stepped closer, towering over her. "If you know more, say it. Don't sit there spitting riddles." Ruth's eyes met his. "I said all I needed. You didn't listen." His voice rose. "Say where she is." "She is already where she belongs." The sheriff's face darkened. "Girl, you test me." "You test yourself," Ruth said. "And you fail." The orchard went quiet except for the scrape of shovels. The deputies kept digging, but slower now, glancing over their shoulders as if expecting more bones to rise. The mistress whispered, "This is madness." The sheriff turned, sharp. "This is law." "Law doesn't dig up orchards," she snapped. "Law digs truth," he said. Ruth's voice cut through. "Truth doesn't hide in dirt. Truth hides in mouths." The sheriff spun back on her. "Then open yours." She gave the faintest smile. "I did." The men stopped their shovels again. One deputy spat. "She gives me chills." Eli stepped forward, voice low. "Sheriff, enough. You won't find what you're after. Leave it." The sheriff's eyes narrowed. "And let her twist the town with her lies." "Maybe they ain't lies," Eli said. The mistress flared. "You take her side?" "I take no side," Eli said. "I just see what's in front of me." Ruth stood then, slowly, bundle pressed close. She walked to the edge of the orchard, rain-soft earth sucking at her shoes. The deputies stepped back as if she carried plague. She knelt, pressed her hand flat to the soil. Her voice was calm, but it carried. "The ground remembers." "Even if you don't." The sheriff stalked her, grabbed her arm, yanked her up. "Enough! You'll speak plain, or you'll ride with me tonight." Ruth stared at him, eyes unblinking. "You already know. That's why you drink alone." His grip faltered. The deputies looked at him, uneasy. Eli's face tightened. The mistress turned away, muttering prayers. The sheriff shoved Ruth back. "Get her inside." The mistress barked, "No, not in my house." "Then the barn," he growled. Ruth brushed dirt from her hands, calm as ever. "I don't need inside. The ground speaks louder than the walls." The sheriff's voice was sharp. "You keep saying that, girl, and you'll find yourself in a cell." Her faint smile returned. "Cells are made of earth, too. You can't shut it out." The sheriff turned from her, voice tight. "Bury the pits back. We're done here." The deputies shoveled dirt over bones, quick and nervous. The orchard looked disturbed, scarred. The mistress pulled her shawl close, eyes fixed on Ruth. Eli stayed still, watching them all. When the last shovel of earth fell, the sheriff mounted his horse. He spoke low, but every ear caught it. This girl carries danger, not in her hands, in her tongue. Ruth whispered almost to herself, "Tongues forget. Dirt remembers." The sheriff's face twitched. He kicked his horse hard, riding off with the deputies close behind. The yard settled into silence, broken only by the wind moving through the trees. The orchard seemed darker now, as though the earth held secrets it had no wish to give back. The mistress whispered, "God forgive us." Eli looked at Ruth. "What did you mean by that smile?" She hugged the bundle closer. "That the dirt already chose its side." The kitchen was dim, evening light crawling through the curtains. The mistress folded linen at the table, eyes darting to the girl on the bench. Ruth had fallen into a shallow sleep, bundle tucked beneath her chin. For the first time since she arrived, her hands had gone slack. The mistress moved closer, slow. Something white slipped from beneath the bundle, half tucked in the girl's dress. A folded paper, edges browned with age. The mistress hesitated, then pulled it free. The paper shook in her hands. She unfolded it carefully. The writing inside was cramped, hurried, marked with smears where ink had bled. She read the first line under her breath. "If you find this, it means they've come again." Her eyes widened. She read further, lips dry. "They came once before, with papers, with promises. Said they would leave, if I signed, if I bent. I would not. I named him. I named what he did. And for that, they burned us. They burned the house to ash and called it an accident. They said it was my shame. But shame belongs to men who hide behind power. If I am gone, let the world know who lit the match." The mistress's breath caught. Her hands trembled. Ruth stirred, eyes opening. She saw the paper in the mistress's grip and sat up fast, clutching for it. "Give it back." The mistress held it away. "Where did you get this?" "It's hers." "Your mother's?" "Yes." The mistress scanned another line. "They said the governor's brother was untouchable, but he is not. Truth burns longer than fire." She whispered, "God help us." Ruth's voice sharpened. "Give it back." "Not yet." Ruth stood, fists clenched. "It's not for you." The mistress's eyes were hard now. "You hid it in your dress. You carried it like a weapon, and it is won. It's proof. Proof of what we already knew and dared not say." Ruth's chin lifted. "Then say it now." The mistress stared at her. "You want me to speak against him? Against the brother of the most powerful man in this county?" "Yes. Do you know what that costs?" "I know what silence cost her." The mistress flinched. She looked at the words again, voice shaking. "They burned her house, left her to scratch words on a wall, then set the fire. And she still found strength to write this." "She left it for me," Ruth said. The mistress whispered, "Or for anyone brave enough to carry it." Ruth reached out. "Give it back." The mistress didn't move. "Why didn't you show this before?" "You wouldn't have listened." The mistress's voice sharpened. "You think I'm a coward. I think you buried your own truth. Same as her." The mistress slapped the table with her palm. "Don't compare us." "You buried a child," Ruth said. The mistress's face twisted. "Stop." "You buried a husband and felt relief." "Enough. You buried yourself in this house." The mistress lunged forward, seizing her shoulders. "You don't know me." Ruth's voice was calm, unshaken. "I know the ground you walk on." The mistress let go, stumbling back. She pressed the letter to her chest. For a long moment she couldn't speak. When she finally did, her voice was low, raw. "I hated him, my husband. Hated him even as I nursed him. He drank, he gambled, he left me in debt. And when he died, I felt free. Then the guilt came and buried me deeper than he ever did." Ruth's eyes softened. "That's why you hear me like a curse." The mistress laughed bitterly. "Maybe." Ruth stepped closer. "But now you know she wasn't lying." "I always knew," the mistress said. "We all did. But knowing and speaking are two different roads." "Then take the road." The mistress held up the letter. "With this?" "Yes." "They'll kill me." "They already killed her." The mistress stared at Ruth, then at the words inked on the page. Her hands trembled again. "You're just a child." Ruth shook her head. "Not anymore." Silence filled the room, heavy as stone. Finally, the mistress pulled out a chair, sat, laid the letter on the table. She smoothed it flat with her palms. "I should burn this." "You won't." "Why not?" "Because it's the only thing that proves you weren't blind. The mistress's throat tightened. "You're cruel. You're angry." They locked eyes across the table. The storm outside had passed, but the house still seemed charged with its weight. The mistress whispered, "We're bound now, aren't we?" "Yes," Ruth said, "by loss. And by men who still walk free." The mistress closed her eyes, whispered, "I can't carry this alone." Ruth leaned forward, voice steady. "You don't have to." The mistress opened her eyes, wet with tears. She stared at the girl, this strange, sharp child who carried ashes in her arms and truth in her mouth. For the first time, she didn't see a curse. She saw a mirror. She whispered, "Then we carry it together." Ruth nodded, bundle pressed tight. Together. The sheriff found him outside the hotel, boots up on the porch rail, cigar burning slowly between thick fingers. The man wore a pressed vest, a ring on each hand, and the kind of grin that didn't bend with time. Folks passing on the boardwalk tipped their hats or kept their heads down. No one lingered. The sheriff stopped at the steps. "We need words." The brother looked him over, smoke curling from his mouth. "Sheriff, always a pleasure. Sit, have a drink. It's hot." "I ain't here to drink." "Then you're here to nag." He flicked ash to the ground. "What's the trouble this time?" The sheriff kept his boots planted in the dirt. "A girl showed up by the ranch. Says she buried her mama." The brother laughed, sharp and easy. "Children say all manner of foolish things. She had a letter." "What kind of letter?" "From her mama." "Mention your name." The brother's smile stayed, but his eyes narrowed. "Lots of letters mention my name. Comes with power. This one said you forced what wasn't yours." The porch went quiet. Even the creak of the boards seemed to wait. The brother blew another long stream of smoke. "That old story? I thought it died with the gossip it wrote in." "On it didn't," the sheriff said. The brother leaned forward. "You believe in a girl, a half-wild thing with dirt on her face. She's got more weight in her word than you do in your gold." That broke the smile. The brother stood, boots heavy on the boards. He came down a step, close now, cigar smoke sharp between them. "Careful, Sheriff. You toss my name around and you'll find yourself out of a job." The sheriff didn't move. "I have already been out of peace for 20 years. The job doesn't matter." The brother chuckled low. "Are you still bitter about that fire?" The sheriff's jaw tightened. "You know what happened. I know houses catch flame, wood dries out, lanterns tip. And walls don't carve words before they fall," the sheriff said. For a beat, silence. The brother waved it off. If she scribbled something, it was madness. Grief makes liars. She wasn't lying. "You were there?" "I saw the ruins. I saw what was left." "Then you saw ash." "Ash don't talk." The sheriff leaned closer, voice hard. "She talks, and she doesn't blink when she does." The brother sneered. "She's a child. You think folk will listen to her over me?" "They already are." The brother's face darkened. He spat into the dirt. "Rumor fades. Money lasts." The sheriff shook his head. "Not this time." The hotel door creaked open. Ruth stood in the shadowed frame, bundled in her arms. She stepped onto the porch slowly, eyes locked on the man. The brother's grin returned, brittle. "Well now, this little prophet. Folks say you've been digging holes where you don't belong." Ruth's voice was soft. "The ground belongs to no one." He laughed. "Sharp tongue, just like your mama. You'll end up the same if you're not careful." "She already ended," Ruth said. "You helped." The brother's smile slipped. "Watch yourself." "I am watching," Ruth said. The sheriff kept silent, letting her words fill the space. The brother tried again. "Your mama was touched. She saw shadows where there were none. She made claims because she liked the sound of her own voice." "She made claims because you broke her," Ruth said. The porch still. The brother's face flushed. He jabbed his cigar toward her. "Careful, girl. Words like that will ruin you." Ruth didn't blink. "They already ruined her." The sheriff finally spoke. "You hear that? Even a child cuts closer to the truth than you." The brother turned on him. "You think you can put me on trial with stares and mutters? There ain't a jury in this county that would touch me." "Maybe not," the sheriff said. "But a letter can." The brother froze. "Letter?" Ruth lifted her bundle, pulled the folded paper from inside. She held it like a blade. "She wrote your name." The brother's hands shook just once before he caught himself. He forced a smile. "That scrap proves nothing. Anyone could have scribbled my name." "She wrote it with ash on her fingers," Ruth said. She wrote it as her house burned. The sheriff's voice was low. I saw the marks. I saw the cellar wall. The brother snapped. Then you should have buried it like a decent man. I buried too much already, the sheriff said. The brother's cigar burned low, smoke trailing weak. He shifted, eyes darting toward the street. A few townsfolk lingered now, pretending not to watch. Ruth's gaze never wavered. You can't burn this away. The brother barked a laugh, too loud. Watch me. I've burned worse. The sheriff's silence weighed heavy. He just stared, steady, the kind of stare that split men open without words. The brother faltered. He dropped the cigar, crushed it under his boot. His voice dropped to a growl. You don't know what it costs to keep order. You don't know what I've done to keep this place steady. You kept yourself steady, the sheriff said, and left the rest to burn. The brother's teeth clenched. Are you going to drag me to the gallows with a child's story and a dead woman's letter? I don't have to, the sheriff said. You're already hanging yourself. The street outside grew quieter. More faces turned. The brother saw them. His bravado cracked. He pulled his vest straight, tried for another smile, but it wavered. Ruth's voice cut sharp. The ground remembers. He looked at her, something flickering in his eyes. Fear, just for a second. The sheriff stepped back, letting silence settle. This ain't over, he said. The brother forced a laugh. It never is. But his hand shook as he lit another cigar. Ruth held the letter tight. The sheriff guided her off the porch, down into the street. Behind them, the brother smoked fast, eyes darting to every corner like shadows might speak his name again. The barn was dark except for the lanterns. 4 flames, one at each corner of a circle. Shadows stretched long across the dirt. The mistress sat stiff, hands folded tight. The sheriff leaned forward, elbows on his knees. The brother lounged like he owned the ground. Ruth sat still, bundle in her lap, face unreadable. The sheriff broke the silence. We're here because no court will take this. So we do it here. The brother laughed. A circle in a barn, that's your court. Ruth spoke first. Truth doesn't need walls. He sneered. Child, you've been coached. Who put these words in your mouth? My mama. She's gone. She speaks through me. The mistress cut in, voice sharp. Stop twisting. She buried her mother while you sat fat on stolen land. The brother leaned back. Careful, woman. You speak as if your own hands are clean. The mistress's eyes flared. I never burned a house to hide sin. The sheriff raised a hand. One at a time. Ruth's voice was steady. He burned it. He made it look like an accident. But fire doesn't lie. Fire tells on the one who lights it. The brother slammed his boot heel against the dirt. Enough. You got no proof, but scribbles on paper. The mistress snapped, and your name is written in ash. The brother's smile twitched. So what? Ash can spell anything if you're desperate enough. The sheriff stared at him. She named you. Twice. The brother's jaw worked. I was never charged. That means I'm clean. Ruth shook her head. Law don't wash filth. The mistress leaned in, voice low and shaking. I buried a child on this land, alone, without preacher, without stone. Don't tell me what the law means. The brother looked at her, eyes narrowing. So you're bitter. That doesn't make me guilty. The sheriff's voice cut sharp. It makes you rotten, and we all smell it. The brother pointed at Ruth. She'll ruin us all. You think the governor won't hear of this? You think he won't crush this ranch, this town, to keep my name clean? Ruth whispered. He can crush the living. He can't crush the dead. Silence followed, heavy as thunder. The mistress spoke again, louder. I lived under men who thought power gave them rights. My husband, my debts, my silence. But tonight I will speak. You took what wasn't yours. You burned what wouldn't bend. And now your rot crawls into this barn. The brother stood, face red. You'll regret this. The sheriff's hand went to his holster. Sit down. You'd draw on me. I'd draw on any man who doesn't listen. The brother hesitated, then sat slow, breathing hard. Ruth shifted her bundle. My mama said dirt doesn't lie. She told me to carry proof. I carried it here. The sheriff looked at her. What's in that bundle? Ruth hugged it close. Her things. Show us. No. The mistress frowned. Why not? Because you don't need to see to know. The brother scoffed. Empty rags and bones, that's all. Ruth's eyes met his. "Even bones speak louder than you." The sheriff's voice was low. "This ain't law. This is reckoning. Speak now or carry it forever." The mistress leaned forward. "I already carried too long. I carried silence until it nearly killed me. Not tonight." Ruth nodded. "Not tonight." The brother looked between them, sweat beading on his brow. "You're fools. The governor will wipe you clean off this map." The sheriff didn't blink. "Then let him try. But first, we name what's true." Ruth spoke last, voice cold and calm. "You broke her. You burned her. You laughed when she screamed, and still she left words behind. You can't burn them all." The brother's mouth opened, then shut. No laugh, no sneer, just silence. The lanterns flickered. The barn held its breath. The sheriff leaned back, voice rough. "Then it's done. No judgment, no jury. But we named it. That's more than the law ever gave her." Ruth closed her eyes. She can rest now. The night was thick, lanterns swinging in the wind. Ruth walked ahead, bundle pressed tight, her bare feet cutting the dirt. The sheriff followed, grim and silent. The mistress came last, shawl clutched, eyes locked on the girl's back. The brother lingered near the door, but even he didn't leave. Ruth stopped at the stable. She dropped to her knees. Without a word, she set the bundle aside and pressed her hands into the earth. The mistress whispered, "What are you doing?" Ruth's voice was flat. "Digging." The sheriff frowned. "With your hands?" "Yes." He stepped forward. "We can fetch tools." Ruth shook her head. "It has to be me." Her fingers clawed into the soil, nails breaking, blood darkening the dirt. The sound of it, skin against earth, was raw. She worked faster, deeper. The mistress winced. "Stop," the mistress said. Ruth didn't. The sheriff crouched, voice low. "What are you after?" "What's inside?" Ruth whispered. The brother muttered, "Madness." Ruth dug until her breath came sharp, chest heaving. Then her hand struck wood. She froze. Slowly, she cleared the soil until a small box showed, edges rotted, cloth clinging to it. She pulled it free. The mistress gasped. "Dear God!" Ruth laid the box on the ground, pried it open. Inside, wrapped in faded fabric, were bones. Tiny, fragile, not a woman's. An infant's. The mistress staggered, knees buckling. She dropped beside it, hands trembling. "No, no." The sheriff whispered, "Lord have mercy." Ruth's voice was quiet. "It's not her. It's what they left us." The mistress touched the cloth with shaking fingers. "I know this." Ruth looked at her. "You buried a child once." The mistress's face broke. "Yes, mine. I thought it was safe under the tree." Ruth shook her head. "Not safe. Taken. Moved." The mistress sobbed, clutching the box. "These are mine." The sheriff's jaw tightened. He turned on the brother. "What do you know of this?" The brother sneered, though sweat lined his brow. "Dead is dead. Doesn't matter who." The mistress rose, box in her arms. "It matters to me." Ruth stood, dirt dripping from her fingers. "I never lied." The sheriff's voice was hard. "Then what does this mean?" Ruth looked at the ground. "It means the earth kept what you all forgot." The mistress rocked the box against her chest, tears streaking her face. "I buried this child once. I'll bury it again. But I won't forget this time." Ruth whispered, "That's all it wanted." The sheriff stared at Ruth, then at the mistress. "So the grave she dug wasn't for her mama." Ruth shook her head. "Number it was for what the ground gave back." The brother spat. "You're all fools, chasing ghosts. None of this changes who runs this town." The mistress turned on him, eyes blazing through tears. "It changes me, and I'm not afraid to speak anymore." Ruth's voice was steady. "Truth always digs its way out." The sheriff lowered his head, hat shadowing his face. "Then this town's about to hear more than it wants." Silence filled the yard. Only the wind moved through the trees, carrying the smell of earth freshly turned. Ruth wiped blood from her hands on her dress. She bent, lifted her bundle again. Her voice was soft but clear. "I just buried what they left us." The mistress clutched the box to her chest, rocking. "And I'll carry what I lost." The sheriff said nothing. The brother cursed under his breath. But Ruth only looked at the soil, calm as stone, as if the ground itself had spoken its last word. The sky was pale, streaked with the first light. The brother saddled his horse in silence, boots crunching on dry earth. No one stopped him. He mounted, spat once, and rode hard down the road, dust swallowing him. The sheriff watched, hands loose at his sides. The mistress asked, Aren't you going after him? No. He'll run back to power. He's been running there his whole life. The sheriff turned his hat low and walked away. His steps were slow, tired. He didn't look back. That left only the mistress and Ruth in the yard. The girl stood barefoot, bundle tucked against her ribs. The mistress's voice was raw. You can stay. This house can be yours too. Ruth's eyes never left the stable. Not stay. Not yet. Why not? First I burn it. The mistress stiffened. Burn? Yes. Why? Ruth walked forward, calm, steady. Because it holds too much. The mistress's voice cracked. It's wood, girl. Just wood and nails. No, Ruth said. It's where silence lived. She struck a match from Eli's kit left on the barrel. Flame bloomed small in her hand. She tossed it into the hay stacked by the wall. The fire caught fast. It licked the boards, spread to the roof. The horses were long gone. Only emptiness burned. The mistress whispered, Lord, help us. Ruth's face glowed in the light. He won't, but the fire will. They stood together, watching the stable fall into itself, beams cracking, sparks climbing toward the morning sky. The mistress touched Ruth's shoulder, voice breaking. And after this, Ruth whispered, then I can rest. The flames roared. Dawn swallowed the smoke. Ash drifted in the yard, still warm from the stable fire. Smoke hung low, clinging to the morning air. The girl lay down where the timbers had fallen, her cheek pressed against blackened earth. The mistress knelt beside her, skirts brushing soot, hand resting on the girl's thin shoulder. You'll choke here, she whispered. Ruth's eyes stayed closed. It's softer than the ground the mistress swallowed hard. You don't need to sleep in ashes. I do. Why? Because that's where they left us. The sheriff stood a few yards away, hat in his hand, face unreadable. The mistress looked up at him. Say something. He shook his head. Nothing left to say. The law doesn't walk away. This ain't law, he muttered. This is a loss. He turned, boots crunching through the dirt, and did not look back. The mistress breathed in the smoke, eyes stinging. Girl, you can come inside the house. Ruth shifted, her voice faint. I asked before. I remember. You never answered. The mistress's hand tightened on her shoulder. I was afraid. Ruth opened her eyes, gray as the ash beneath her. Afraid of me. Afraid of what you carried. I carried the truth. The mistress's voice broke. So did I. And I buried it too deep. The girl turned her face toward her, lips trembling. Can I sleep inside? The question hung like smoke, fragile and heavy. The mistress brushed soot from her cheek, her voice steady this time. Yes. Yes, you can. Ruth exhaled, slow and long, and closed her eyes again. The yard was silent except for the faint crackle of dying embers. Ash settled, dawn rose.